Hey, how's it going? It's Terrence here with fishnetproductions.com. I have a video for you today with a very simple yet powerful compression technique that will instantly smooth out your tracks and tighten up your mix and give it a more balanced feel. Now, also I have something very cool I'm going to let you know about at the end of this video, so make sure you stick around for that. Now, with that being said, let's jump right in. Now, this technique is called the Cumulative 3 technique, and you'll see why in a moment, but it's a technique that falls under the simplicity of mixing category, which I subscribe to because I think that mixing is a very simple process once you eliminate all the clutter. And basically, this technique is the process of using compression or compressor as the first plugin in your signal chain to tame and control dynamics. Now, let me show you how this works. Now, the first thing you're going to do is choose your compressor, preferably something that's a transparent compressor. Now, for this example, I'm going to use the Slate Digital FG401 compressor, and I'll show you how this works in a minute. But again, you want to choose something that's pretty transparent because at this point, the only thing you're trying to do is add some dynamic control, and you're not trying to add any analog flavor or anything like that. So with this compressor, what I'm going to do is turn off this transformer button, which is sort of the analog switch on this compressor. Then I'm going to change this circuit to circuit 2 because, as Slate Digital mentions, this is the more transparent setting on this compressor. Now, again, I just recommend you turn off all of your analog flavor or anything that you have on your compressor if you're using an analog model compressor. If you're using a digital one, that's fine. You don't have to worry about this. Now, the next thing we're going to do is adjust our attack time. Now, what you want to do is set your attack time all the way slow. Now, this setting may vary depending on which compressor you're using, because on some compressors, all the way to the left is slow and then all the way to the right is fast. So make sure you know that about your compressor. But again, we're just going to set the attack time to all the way slow, and then we're going to set the release time to all the way fast. Now, make sure you pay attention to the same thing about the release setting on your compressor, because again, this could be all the way fast and this could be all the way slow. So again, you're looking for all the way slow attack setting and all the way fast release setting. Now, from there, what we're going to do is set our ratio to 3:1, hence the name in the Cumulative 3 compression technique. Now, so you have 3:1 ratio of compression here, and then you have your attack time all the way slow and your release time all the way fast. The next thing you're going to do is just go ahead and add a half of dB of gain, of makeup gain, to your compressor. Now, again, if you don't have this setting on your compressor, it may be automatic. It may adjust the makeup gain automatically, which that's fine too, so you don't have to worry about it. But if you do have this, just go ahead and add a half of dB of makeup gain, and that's going to make up for any volume compensation that we need because of the loss of gain reduction from the compression. Now, from here, you're basically going to go to the loudest point in your track. Now, usually you can tell this by looking at your waveform. I have this compressor on my vocal track first, and this is my vocal track here. And this section that I have looped here is the loudest portion of this track. So again, go to the loudest section of your track, start a loop, maybe a measure or two before the loudest peaks and maybe a measure or two after it, so you can hear what's going on. And then we're going to start playback, and what we're going to do is adjust the threshold setting to where you're getting only 3 dB of gain reduction, again, hence the name in the Cumulative 3 dB of gain reduction on the highest peaks in this track. All right, so let's do that. All right, perfect. You can see the 3 dB of gain reduction kicking in right at that highest peak in this track. Now, what you want to do is go ahead and apply this compression setting to all of your individual tracks. So I'm going to do that right now, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've applied this technique to all of my individual tracks here. Now, let me show you how we're going to do this on the mix bus. So you're going to put the compressor on your mix bus, and we're going to do something very, very similar. The only difference between the settings here that we're going to do is turn the makeup gain to 0, because we're not looking for makeup gain necessarily on the mix bus. So we're going to leave that at 0, and then we're going to adjust our threshold to where we're only getting half of 3, which is 1.5 dB of gain reduction in this setting here. So let's start the playback, and let's do that until we get this meter here up to about 1.5 dB of gain reduction. All right, here we go. Okay, great. So we're getting a dB and a half of gain reduction over our mix bus. Again, this is simply taming the dynamics. Now, what I'm going to do is A and B this mix for you with all of these compressors turned off and with all of them turned on, and you'll see the difference that's happening in this mix. You'll hear, once the compressors get turned on, you'll hear much tighter, punchier mix, and everything is a lot more balanced. So I'll start with everything off, and then I'll turn them on as we go. All right, here we go. All right, so you hear a few things happening there. One, the vocal is much more clear. It seems to jump out of the mix a little bit more. The drums seem to be a little bit more punchier. The guitars are sitting back in the mix where they need to be, because those rock guitars sometimes get a little loud and irritating in those irritating frequencies. But with this compression setting, they seem to sit back in the mix a little bit more. So let me A and B it again, and you check those things out. All right, so it's as simple as that. And just off top, with using compression, no EQ, nothing else, with these minor settings, we're getting a lot more balanced mix, a lot more punchier mix, and we have a better starting point to start our EQ and other processing from. Now, the reason that this is a cumulative effect is because you don't necessarily hear the compression on the individual tracks, but once you play everything together, that's where you hear all of the settings taking place. All right, so again, a very simple method of using compression at the beginning of your chain to immediately gain some dynamic control over your mix. And it's just a very sturdy approach to getting a great sounding mix. Now, go out and try this Cumulative 3 compression technique in your mix or on your tracks, and just grab your favorite compressor, set the attack time to all the way fast and the release time to all the way slow, and add a half of dB of makeup gain to your signal. Then go to the loudest point in your tracks and then set the threshold to where you're only getting 3 dB of gain reduction. And again, the same settings on the mix bus, but you're only getting 1.5 dB of gain reduction instead of the 3. Okay, so I told you at the beginning of the video that I had something very cool for you, and it's this. I'm starting a weekly mailbag edition where I take your questions on anything about mixing. I'll take your questions and create a video explaining the answer, and in some cases demonstrating the answer. Pretty cool, huh? So how do you get your question asked and answered? Well, simply go to my Facebook page at facebook.com/fishnetpro and make sure you like the page. Then you can at any time simply type your question on the page. I'll grab a few of the questions and discuss them in a video for you. Also, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, as I'm going to be putting out more content videos very, very soon, and you don't want to miss those. Plus, I'll be uploading the mailbag videos I just discussed to the channel. So even if you don't ask a question or get a chance to ask a question, you may be able to get something from someone else's question. So make sure you go like the Facebook page right now and hit that subscribe button right there in the bottom right hand of your screen. And I'll see you guys in the next video.